today's show, so it's all great vibes here.
Great vibes, obviously, because Michigan State in the offseason now, recruiting is picking up.
Sure, that's right.
Got a great commitment earlier this week from four-star shooting guard Kurt Tang, top 40 kid from Haverhill in Massachusetts.
You know it.
Yep, so great vibes there. Another target, Jesse McCulloch, told me he'll be announcing on April 20th. Looking like it's good vibes there as well. So Michigan State recruiting, just like in the last cycle, turning it up, staying on it. And, why not have insight from someone that's responsible for a lot of this recruiting success?
Let's give it a try.
Great idea by us.
Do we have someone?
I think so, hopefully.
Do we get to him right now?
Let's go. Joining us today, right off the top, on the SD4L show, is Michigan State's Director of Recruiting, Jon Borovich. Jon, how you doing today?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Thanks, Justin. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, for sure. So for the audience that doesn't know, which shame on you, first of all, but if you don't, Jon has been at Michigan State for, I want to say almost a year now. He came from Northwestern, where he was the director of recruiting there. Bloomfield Hills native. He played at Central Michigan, where he was a two-time captain. After that, he went to work for Coach Montgomery at Northern Illinois, where he was the associate head coach. So been around the sport for well over 20 years in the coaching industry. So brings a wealth of experience. It's obvious why Coach Izzo hired him. But Jon, with all that said, I guess the first question kind of that it makes sense to ask is, what exactly do you do as the director of recruiting?
That's a good question, Justin. Thanks for all that. Thanks for making me feel old. I appreciate it. But no, obviously it covers a lot of different things in recruiting. Working for Coach Izzo and being a part of our staff is something I'm really grateful for, the opportunity to be a part of Spartan basketball. So, the job entails everything and anything recruiting, right? Anything you could imagine. Obviously, this time of year, there's a lot going on with the transfer portal. So always keeping that in the forefront as much as possible. But, it just, the organization of our staff, trying to make sure that we're doing a good job getting a head start on the underclassmen when it comes to recruiting, which I think has helped us here in a short period of time. But ultimately, just keep our staff organized, try to be as efficient as possible, and brag about all things that Michigan State basketball is, and hopefully continuing on the championship way that Coach Izzo has over the last 28 years.
And for a player, what is the beginning of that recruiting saga? I mean, for you guys, do you just go on to Rivals? Do you go on 24/7 Sports and look at whoever a five-star is and call them? Or are you just, hanging out, loitering at AAU events? Or, how does this process begin? For most of these kids, obviously it's a little different for each one, but for the bulk of it, how does this begin?
Yeah, Matt, it's evolved, right? Over the years, it really has changed. But ultimately the process begins for most of these prospects June 15th following their sophomore year. Right, June 15th is the magic date that the NCAA has come up with where we can contact them, right?
Gotcha.
So that's what we do. We build our list based off everything that you're talking about. Some of it is, really old school, like word of mouth, high school coaches, connections, people that we know in the industry. But there is some value, obviously, and 247, the recruiting publications that are put out there, a lot of scouting services. So that's where we draw a lot of it. Our staff does dive into a lot of film. So we'll watch kids as early as freshman, sophomore year in high school. But usually it starts June 15th following their sophomore year, where we initiate contact with, our prospects. We have an A list, we have a B list, and we have a C list. And we just go from there. We divvy it up amongst the staff. The assistants are assigned to be the point man in the recruitment. And it's our responsibility as staff members to know when to bring in Coach Izzo and when we need to bring him in to try to finish the deal.
Gotcha.
So, Jon, when you are in the early phases, in addition to kind of being in the lab and grinding tape and finding out everything you can about the kid as a player, the other component of it, I would imagine, is the character test and making sure that he is someone that's coachable. And as we know, Coach Izzo has a very passionate and energetic coaching style, so you don't want someone that's going to enter the portal after the first broken clipboard. So how do you make sure, I guess, because you can't just go down there to his practice and kind of yell at him and see if he can take it. So how do you guys kind of make sure that someone can handle the coachability and is a culture fit?
Yeah, and I saw your guys' show the other night. I think it was Jackson. You guys had
Yeah.
Carson. Yeah, that was a
That's the
great
one.
segment they did on there. Really fun. Yeah, I mean that's a huge part of it. You guys follow our program really closely, so you guys have heard the saying "OKG," our kind of guy. That's something that Coach Izzo's been talking about for a long time, and that is part of it, right? Like we want guys where character does matter. Coach does really emphasize work ethic, right? Like he's old school like that. Like that stuff really matters. Talent is important. There has to be a certain level of talent in order to play at a place like Michigan State. But you already said it. In order to be our kind of guy, you do have to have that character. You have to have that desire. You have to have that drive. And you have to have that intestinal fortitude that it takes to play for somebody like Coach, because he is going to push you. And we make that perfectly clear during the recruiting process that, if you're not super competitive, if you don't want to maximize who you are as a student athlete, the Michigan State's probably not the place for you. And that's okay, right? We want to figure that out early. The best thing in recruiting is for somebody to say, yes, I do want to be part of Michigan State basketball. But the next best thing is for them to say, no, we're not interested in State. And that way we don't waste our time and we don't waste theirs.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, you didn't get a lot of no's for the last class, the 2023 class. Any recruiting site you look at squarely in the top 5, many of them have you guys in the top 3 as well. I mean, so the talent is off the charts, but what really impressed me was just how early you got this class locked up. How important is it to lock up a class as early as you did for the 2023 guys? And I guess just how were you able to do it that quickly?
Yeah, well, the staff deserves all the credit. I mean, Coach Izzo obviously being the key cog in that wheel, but the assistants did a phenomenal job. I just got here last summer, so a lot of that work had already been done prior to my arrival. It is about relationships. I mean, Coach Izzo, our coaching staff does a phenomenal job of building relationships, not only with the prospect. That part is really important, but also the people around the prospect. Right? We're all a byproduct of our environment and the people around us, right? So the parents, the coaches. I was blown away when I got back here. Coach Izzo and all of his greatness, the amount of time that he spends with not just the recruit, but the people around the recruit, whether it's on the phone, in person, when they're on campus, all those things really go a long way. So, yeah, I mean, obviously with the 2023 class, it's a class we're really excited about. Guys that are well-rounded. We think they fit each other very well, and then obviously fit us and our program and what we're trying to do moving forward. So, yeah, it's a class that Spartan Nation should be excited about, and I know we definitely are excited to start working with them.
Definitely. So, John, one of the things that, as you kind of said off the top, right now everyone's pretty much just refreshing the portal, seeing all these guys enter in. Michigan State, 40% of their starting lineup last year, you guys had from the portal, Tyson and Joey, obviously. But at the same time, the foundation, the core, everyone was homegrown for the most part. It wasn't a program that's bringing in tons of guys every year, like a revolving door, and then struggling with chemistry like another program in the Big Ten. But that's neither here nor there. The question I have for you is, how do you guys balance adding a piece here and there versus maybe losing your culture possibly? What is your approach to the portal, I guess? How would you articulate your overall approach to the portal?
Yeah, the portal is a factor, right? We all know that. We'd be naive in college basketball not to be a part of that. But yeah, I think ultimately, Coach, the foundation is laid with development, right? And Coach wants to continue to develop guys. He wants to continue to recruit high school players. We had talked about that in the last question, Matt, like the 2023 class and getting them done early. You start that process when they're sophomores in high school, right? And so that is where the relationship piece really is different, because you're developing that relationship over 2 years, right? The transfer portal, a lot of times those relationships, it's like a shotgun marriage, right? It's literally 2 weeks. You know these people and they're making a decision. And how well are they really going to know you, and how well are you going to really know them, right? So that's something, again, you can't plan for everything, right? And planning and projecting down the road has gotten a lot more difficult in our profession to know what your roster is going to look like in the spring. But we try to do the best we can. We're all fortunate to be a part of a phenomenal program and work for Coach Izzo. So it is a little bit more stable here than most places. But again, you never know, right? Like a young man could walk in tomorrow and make a decision. And if, in fact, that does happen, where you do have a hole in your roster, that is just another way to potentially plug a hole, right? I don't know if you want to plug 5 holes, right? If you have 5 holes in your boat, that could be a problem. But one, that's more manageable, and 2, and so forth and so on. So, yeah, I mean, those are legitimate questions. The transfer portal is something that, some programs have had a ton of success with, but obviously there's a lot of programs out there that haven't been able to make that chemistry work.
That's right.
And I got another portal question. This is for the people like me that live 90% of their lives on social media. We're scrolling Twitter, and all of a sudden we see, hey, transfer portal guy X has interest from these schools. And, of course, you don't have to name names. I'm sure you don't. But what does that mean, like, when a school shows interest in a portal kid? Like, does that mean you guys sent him a text really quick? Does that mean that he's in Izzo's office right now on the phone with Joe Tipton at that very moment? Or, like, what does that mean, shows interest in the portal? Because that could mean anything in my mind.
Yeah, it really could. And there's obviously varying levels of interest, right? Mm-hmm. Like, did they level of interest in us, right? Have they initiated contact with us? Have we initiated contact with them? Has it been directly to the prospect, or has it been to somebody that knows the prospect, right? Gotcha. So there's varying levels of interest and what that means. We all know there's a certain element of salesmanship when it comes to recruits wanting to boost their stock, right? Yeah. And by saying Michigan State is recruiting me, that's going to help their stock, just like it would if they mentioned whatever, UConn or San Diego State, anybody that comes from a program. Guys are going to see that, just like you, Matt. A lot of assistants this time of year are on social media following what other programs are doing. When they see that, it is a highly competitive industry. They see, oh, geez, Oklahoma's recruiting this individual. I'm at Texas. I'm going to make sure that, hey, we're involved with this individual as well. So, yeah, there's some of that going on when it comes to interest. There's all different.
Sure. So, John, speaking of the brand, the brand that Michigan State has, that comes into play, obviously, with the recruits that you can attract. So a school like Michigan State that's a national brand, you guys can go far out. You can go to California, Utah, like you did last year with Jackson, Massachusetts. But there's also, obviously, the Midwest flavor of the program, the Midwest roots, the in-state recruiting. How do you guys balance being a national brand but also prioritizing the Midwest where maybe kids can visit more often and maybe it's easier to land some of those kids?
Yeah, I mean, Coach's success speaks for itself, right? I mean, the state of Michigan, the 4-hour radius from our campus, that's going to always be our home ground and the area that we're going to recruit the hardest. But as you all know, things change, right? Like there's different classes, different years. Sometimes the class, the senior class in the state of Michigan has 7 high major players. Sometimes it has 1, right? So in those years and the variance of it, you have to be prepared to go outside of the state of Michigan. Obviously, you start off in the Midwest, and if those pieces aren't there for what your roster needs are, then you're going to have to branch out even further. And the country, and we all know this, in life, it's gotten smaller, right, because of everything we're talking about, social media, television, right? Like Michigan State is on national television all the time. The Big Ten Network does a phenomenal job of getting our brand out there. It's going to get out there even more with UCLA and USC coming into the league. So that's going to expand our recruiting territory even more. And we talk about this all the time as a staff. Like it's things have changed. Now, kids don't go to your traditional high schools all the time, right? Like there is this influx of talent that has entered the prep school circuit. And again, those kids might have been in Michigan and now they go to school in Florida or they go to school in Texas, California, or Las Vegas, right? And so those kids have ties to the Midwest. We're definitely going to try to tap into that. And if they don't, Coach Izzo and the brand of Michigan State, like you said, Justin, is a national brand and even international to a certain extent where you can really spread your wings and get out there and go after the guys that fit us best.
Yeah. It's time to put John on the hot seat here, and you've talked a lot about the staff, of course, Tom Izzo, the coaches. Let's talk about the players, though. Which player do you think is the best recruiter on this team where you guys have a visitor on campus, you give him to player X, and you're like, this is in the bag. Like, this is done.
Yeah, that's a great question. It really is hard to pinpoint one guy, right? I'm not going to try to pull any punches here and avoid the question. we do have a phenomenal group. We really do. And that is one thing that's really stood out to me in my short time here. Obviously, I was a graduate assistant here 20 years ago, and the culture was really set back then. Spartan Dogs really do a phenomenal job of recruiting future Spartan Dogs. And our staff really taps into our players. We listen to our players. When those guys spend time with our recruits, we know we have a really good chance of getting them. Our guys take a tremendous amount of pride in the recruiting piece. And obviously there's a lot to sell, right? And there's a reason why you see former players coming back the way that they do. Like, you hear all this talk about brotherhood and all those things. Like, this is real, right? This is a genuine thing. It is a family culture. You see it every year on Alumni Day. These guys are proud to be Michigan State Spartans. They love bringing their families back. They love being a part of the program. And so, when it comes to recruiting, like, that's one of the things we always say to recruits is all you need to do is come here and spend 24 hours with our guys. And we have a really good chance of landing that future prospect.
Yeah. So speaking of coming there, these days with social media and stuff, I'm guessing official visits have changed from back when you were taking your official visits. So what has been some of the ways that official visits have evolved recently?
Yeah, I mean, it's I would say that, the dinners, the time together, like all that stuff has always been consistent over time. I think that one of the biggest things, Justin, is just technology, right? Like the things that you can really show. Obviously, our facility upgrades and all those things are off the charts. The alumni locker room, all those things. But yeah, I mean, just like our social media people, Kara Kay and Julian, like they do a phenomenal job of putting things together. Like, you guys had a really cool intro. I give you guys props on that. I don't know if that's Owen or who that is.
Yeah, shout out Owen.
Video you guys have. But like when we sit in our theater and we can present some of the video stuff that we can now show, and whether it's pictures of the aircraft carrier and videos of those types of things, the Champions Classic, right? We're going to Maui in 2024. Obviously, all the past success that we had with Final Four runs and all those things, those are really, really impressive things when you bring a kid in for an official visit, and that's how we started, right? They come and see the Magic Johnson statue, coach is out there to take pictures with them, and then we bring them right into the theater. That's a great way to start off a visit, whether it's unofficial or official. But again, at the end of the day, Justin, it's not about the bells and the whistles. It's more about the Jimmies and the Joes, and our guys do a phenomenal of recruiting those guys when they get here.
And last thing for me, it's one comment, one question. One comment is I can fit in a ball bag if there's room on the plane to Maui in 2024. I will get there by any means necessary. And the question is, you brought up that you were a GA however many years ago. We don't got to talk about how long ago this was. Like 5 years ago. We'll call it that. How has Izzo changed over that time that you were a GA to where he is right now? Or is the answer just simply put, no, he hasn't?
Yeah, I mean that is the greatness in coach, right? When I talked to him about coming back here, his passion, his desire, his hunger, his drive to be, to have one of the best programs in the entire country is as strong as it's ever been, right? And so, when you're coming here as the director of recruiting, those things are important, right? Because those are going to be the same questions that prospects will ask, that coaches will ask, that parents will ask. And so, I've been asked that question a lot, Matt, not to take away from your originality of your question, but
really
cool,
but no,
right? Think about it. When I was here before, it was after the initial 3 straight Final Fours in the national championship run in 2000. And it was kind of cool to
I think it's possible that Coach's battery has died. No, there he
is.
No,
you guys, Coach Izzo is calling. He must be watching the show, guys.
You never missed an episode, so perfect. Yes, excellent.
You should
I
probably
might have just
take
lost
that.
my job, guys.
Yeah.
If you guys are hiring, let me know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
I don't think it was that bad of a show, but yeah.
Yeah. No, but seriously, Coach's passion is as strong as it's ever been. Just really fortunate to be a part of it. And I think the one thing that, he talks about now, maybe even more so than he did then, was how much more it is about the players, not only how they're performing while they're here, but what they're doing after here, right?
Gotcha.
He wants those guys to pursue their dreams, whether it's the NBA, playing basketball, not playing basketball. Like, he genuinely cares about the lives that they're going to live once they leave here. And that's something that is probably even stronger now than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, great stuff. Jon, last question for me. You've been very, very gracious with your time. So you've been recruiting for a while now. Do you have either a wild story, a funny story, a last minute, like, kids switching up? Like, what is your number one wildest recruiting story? You can leave the name out. You can leave the school out. Do you have anything that comes to mind or no?
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's tough. We can talk maybe off air.
Okay,
but yeah, I mean, it's, I think one of the hardest parts about recruiting, right, is like that, that midnight hour, right? Mm-hmm. Where the kid is said, I'm in, I'm coming, super excited to be a part of your program. And, you've been through it enough, right? For me, it's been 20 years where, like, it's never really done.
Sure.
Right? Like, you never feel like that ink is dry enough yet, right? And so I really feel for the football guys. Like, obviously, I've never experienced it, but, like, all the flipping that takes place, like, I don't know if I can handle that, because for us, it very rarely happens.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the one or two times that it has happened in your career, it just, not only are you bummed out because of all the sacrifice and time and energy and resources that you put into it, but you just feel like you've let your staff down, right? Sure. Like, you've let your teammates down, like, you've let the program down, and that's the hardest pill to swallow. So, yeah, I mean, without, throwing anybody under the bus, it happened recently, and before I was at Michigan State. But those are difficult days, man. When you're an assistant and you got to go in there and you got to tell your head coach that, like, hey, this kid, even though he said he's coming, is no longer coming. That's a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah, all the days, hours, trips you've taken. I cannot imagine.
I'm not cut for it. Yeah, I'm not.
Jon, we really appreciate your time. I know before this, not myself, the general public, like, we didn't know as much about Michigan State's philosophy and all that. So you've given us great insight. You guys have had great success, and I'm sure you will continue to, based on how it seems in the future. And appreciate all your time. We have one request, if you can return the favor, and that's, can you please get Coach Izzo to make a Twitter?
Oh, yeah. Well, if I can do that, I can probably pull a rabbit out of a hat, right? Yeah. That will be the day. I don't know if how would he handle that, right? Like, after all the scrutiny that he's given to social media, he would have to delegate, right? It would have to be Garrett. It would have to be somebody else running that handle. Maybe you, Justin. Maybe you would delegate it.
Yeah. Imagine coaches are just tweeting GIFs and emojis cryptically to take shots and stuff like that.
It'd be great.
Yeah. Marty gets a double-double, and he just tweets out, like, a middle finger to anyone that called for a Portal Center. All right, Jon, thank you so much for all your time and all your insight.
Jon.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for everything you do for Michigan State and our program.
No, you as well.
Thank you, Jon.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it.
Great stuff.
I just never get tired of hearing the Izzo has, like, renewed energy, and that he still has the same drive and everything. And like we've heard that throughout the years. And, like, the first time I heard that, maybe like 3-ish years ago, when we all thought that he was getting old, it's like, of course, like, what else is he gonna say? Right. Of course everyone's gonna say, oh, Izzo's got the same drive, but, like, I believe it, like 100%. Now I believe it, whether it be just his actions or just the tidbits and the tales that you hear from everyone else. Like,
the results recruiting wise.
Of course. Let's talk about recruiting right now, actually, because we couldn't talk about it with Jon.
Right.
We can talk about it with us, though.
That's right.
2024. That's right. I've been using this phrase the entire week. Started the class with a bang. With Tang, that's right. God, that is so cringy, but I'm going to say it anyway because I'm very excited about it. This is how you start a class with a bang, though. Another top 40 kid.
That's right.
Got how many of those is MSU going to be getting here in the last few cycles? So, Justin, take us to the church of Justin Thind right now. What is this squad getting with Tang?
With Tang, Michigan State is getting a knockdown shooter, a 3-level scorer.
Love it.
He does not waste any steps or any dribbles.
No.
Very fluid in how he comes off of screens and doesn't waste time with the release. So you're going to see a kid that maybe doesn't even need more than like 11 dribbles in a game to score 20 points by the time he hits his stride. You know how Klay Thompson a few years ago used to have those games where he'd score like 58 points on like 7 dribbles?
Yep.
That's kind of his style of play. Obviously, I'm not saying he's going to come in and score 58 points, but...
Oh, I heard you.
You'll hold it against me, I'm sure. So, yeah, Kerr is that kind of a scorer where he doesn't need to be initiating the play. He doesn't need to be creating the shot for himself. Sure. You give him a screen, you give him a set, you give him space, he will make the defense pay. He is athletic enough to develop into a plus defender.
Okay.
In terms of, I guess, slashing and driving to the lane, that's probably the one place where he's probably going to try to develop here in the coming months and years. But from day one, he can come and shoot the basketball from all 3 levels, and he's going to give you scoring and plus athleticism and most likely plus defense from day one.
And, you know, this is actually a quip that you had. This was in a group chat. But you said, like, he starts his shot before he even gets the ball. Mm-hmm. Like, that is how quick he is with the shot here. And I don't know, you think the kind of offensive sets that MSU has been running under Tom Izzo the last 2 decades don't fit his game perfectly. The coming off pin downs, a little bit of horns, sets action, you know, coming off screens. Okay, ball's going to be right in your chest when you come off this curl, and that's going to find the bottom of the hoop here. So, yeah, it's almost like this guy was made in a lab to play in a Tom Izzo offense. Right. So, absolutely love to see it. And I just love the emphasis on shooting, not just with Kurt Tang, but, you know, the last few classes as well. I mean, Garrick Norman, okay, solid shooter. Jeremy Fierce, his shot is coming along. Xavier Booker got a solid stroke. And Cohen Carr, athletic freak. And the one thing that he's really grown the last year, well, is that shot. And look, Michigan State, incredible recruiting class in 2023, top 3 class. They got another good one coming in most likely in 2024. And I feel like that sometimes you get these great classes and everything that's like written about them is like great athletes. Awesome length. They're good rebounders. They're solid, but lacking in their shooting, but that's okay. And like eventually, no, that's not okay. You need to put the ball in the hoop. Like I feel like we're getting a little too far away from the game of basketball here. And then like you see a Kentucky team with 5 stars, and then, well, one of them can kind of somewhat shoot. The other one are just athletic freaks, and they're aced out of the tournament because, well, they couldn't shoot the ball. Yeah. Who'd have thought? So, yeah, it's nice that, you know, shooting is being emphasized.
100%. Very well said. I think with what Michigan State is doing in terms of fit and complementary pieces
is lovely.
John touched on it a little bit there, as that was one of the themes that stood out to him from this class. But if you look at the class, you have a dribble drive point guard that can initiate the offense in Jeremy Fierce. Then you have surrounded him with a athletic slasher that just would keep defenses on their toes on the back cut in Cohen Carr. You have a shooter in Garrick Norman. You have a shooter in Xavier Booker. And now in this next class, you have Cohen Carr, shooter. You have possibly committing to Michigan State on April 20th, Jason McCulloch, shooter. As much of a shooter, he is the definition of a stretch four. I guess we can talk about him a little bit now, but Michigan State, Ohio State, pretty much any of the Midwest Big Ten schools you can think of, they're all over there vying for his services. Alabama is in the mix as well, but he told me April 20th is the day he will be announcing his commitment. I have the crystal ball pick on Michigan State. His game is, there are probably better comparisons out there, but I guess to keep it familiar to Michigan State fans, kind of a Joey Hauser with more length is kind of his style of game. He's not going to go create his own shot by taking it to the hoop or crossing people up. You give him space on the outside, he will make the shot, and he'll probably be a plus defender at least compared to Joey. But you're going to have shooters all around Jeremy Fierce for the next 3 to 4 years, and athletes at the same time. So
it's just like we're getting so excited about next season, 2023, but there's still excitement to be had after in 2024.
And you want to talk Jalen Harrelson in 2025?
I kind of do. I wouldn't say no, but yeah, man, it's looking nice here. So I thought I heard rumors that Tom Izzo and his recruiting are dead.
So
I don't know.
The rumors of his demise, Matt.
Greatly exaggerated rumors, Justin. Let's go. So yeah, no, that's a great way to start a class right there. And again, just like we talked about with John with the 2023 class, they got it locked up early. Kurt Tang also locked up early, and I like who they won his commitment over. You know, okay, Providence kind of out of the mix there. All right, with Ed Cooley going down to Georgetown, but Rutgers they're building a solid class for 2024. Like, I know that on paper it's, you beat Rutgers. Like, I don't know. They already got a top 10 kid signed to that 24 class. I mean, there's a few more leans. So yeah, it could have very well been Kurtang going to Piscataway, but nope, Izzo swooped in, got him.
And Rutgers, I believe, offered Kurtang September of his sophomore year.
Wow.
And Michigan State offered him, I want to say, in spring of his junior year.
Gotcha.
Either way, I might be off on Michigan State's timing there, but Kurtang was offered by Rutgers at least 7 months before Michigan State.
Wow. Okay.
And he said that loyalty to the schools that offered him, or in the earlier part of his recruitment, Rutgers and Providence, was a huge priority for him.
Yep.
And Michigan State wasn't late by any means, but they were not one of the first 5 or 6 schools. The work that Coach Izzo and Coach Wojcik and John and all these guys on the staff, they outworked a lot of those staffs. They kept relationships consistent, communication consistent, and they basically grinded out another win with relationships and the things that matter most. Kerr had a very low drama recruitment. He was all about he was about a couple of things: family feel and offensive fit. All he mentioned is felt like a family, and he loves the pin downs they run at Michigan State.
Yep.
It was those pillars. It wasn't flash. It wasn't this. It wasn't that. And they got this wrapped up pretty quickly.
Not bad. Not bad. And we'll see you April 21st. Hopefully good news with the Jesse McCulloch commitment right there. Still some good schools to beat out. Alabama, they're going to be tough to take down. I believe he got an Indiana offer not too long ago, but they did not make his Final Four. Is that?
I believe that's correct.
Okay, Indiana not making a Final Four. Imagine that. That's crazy. I just thought about that one.
Well done.
You like that one? Thank you. But yeah, that's all I got to say for basketball.
Yeah. That's all I've got to say as well.
There's a strapping gentleman at this desk that came out with a great piece on football. That's right. Not just football. No, you don't have to keep looking. It's you, JT. Of the 2022 signing class, look, they're still babies. Those are still young kids in the football program, but boy, did they do some growing last year. By and large, because there was a lot of injuries ahead of them, and also there was playing time to be had. So, JT, check us in with the 2022 recruiting class for our football Spartans, please.
Definitely, Matt. So this is a topic that I was most interested to kind of look into as spring camp got underway. Michigan State's 2022 class, this is their first full off season in the program. Obviously, a lot of them early enrolled last time, but for the class as a whole, this is their first full off season. This, to me, was the first class of the Mel Tucker era that was going to be kind of scrutinized and kind of held accountable to hit on. Because the 2021 class, Mel came in recruiting for a program that was 27 and 24. He was recruiting in a region he had not coached in previously in years over Zoom, so he did not have any in-person relationships in that region, and he came in late. And I know people will say it's not late. He came in 11 months before signing day. A lot of these kids have already visited a school 3 to 4 times by that point. So situations were not ideal for Mel in the 2021 class. Some of those kids transferred out. Another few might not hit. It is what it is. 2022 was really where the onus was on to hit. And so far, based on everything that kind of we've heard at 24/7, my colleague Corey Robinson, Stephen Brooks as well, it seems like there's a lot of optimism here. So let me just, I guess, run through kind of and give sort of a recap on what we're hearing on a lot of these guys. But really, you're looking at a class where the defensive back group and the offensive line unit, those are two groups where they will probably be the foundations for their respective sides on the ball in the coming years. You have Dylan Tatum, Jaden Mangum, and Malik Spencer that all could start in the middle of the field if they had to. We'll see if they bring in a portal safety in the spring.
Right.
But those three could start in the middle with Tatum as the nickel and the other two I mentioned at safety. You have Caleb Coley, Malcolm Jones, who are vying for the 2 deep in the playing group. Malcolm Jones, possibly the backup nickel to Dylan Tatum. Maybe he wins the job. I don't know. Caleb Coley right there in the outside corner conversation. That's 5 defensive backs from the same class that by the time they're redshirt freshmen or true sophomores are in the thick of things.
Yeah.
Offensive line-wise, we unfortunately saw today Gavin Brocious suffered a knee injury, so I guess his timeline is a little murky, but he has all the tools long-term to still be a success. Obviously, no question about that.
Yep.
You have Ashton Lepo, who since Michigan State took his commitment has gained 40 pounds.
Yeah.
You have Braden Miller, who was wildly underrated.
Yep.
He was a take at Stanford, at Michigan, at a lot of schools. He canceled a lot of those visits to commit to Michigan State. Coach Cap did a phenomenal job finding him and securing him. He is in the thick of it for one of the offensive tackle backup spots, right in the 2 deep. Chris Phillips, he's in the thick of it for the right guard spot, him and Gino Vandemark in that 2 deep right there. Those guys on the defensive back group and the offensive line, that's kind of why I was saying they are kind of the backbone of the class. They're all already in that 2 deep conversation. Now you start branching out from there. Caton Hauser, we've talked about Caton a lot on this show.
Sure did.
Not much more to say there. He did very well in the first scrimmage, was the best quarterback out of the 3 in that scrimmage definitively.
Gotcha.
And we'll see what happens in the rest of the spring camp in the fall, but no reason to think he's not a hit. Everything he was projected to be, he's on pace for that. You have Jack Nickel, blocking tight end as he came in. Underrated with his hands and receiving as well. He is a guy that I expect this year to probably be in that tight end 3 range, but he will be getting lots of heavy run set snaps and special teams at the lowest. Tyrell Henry, he is in the, I don't want to say in the lead, but he is very high up there in that 3rd receiver spot that was vacated by Jaden Reed last year. Obviously, you have Keon and Trey coming in. They got their spots locked in. But it's Tyrell, Montori Foster, Christian Fitzpatrick a little bit, and Tyrell's doing a very good job there. So that's something to keep an eye on.
I like his game a lot.
Yeah.
Especially in the return game, too. I know we talked about that last week, but I'm a big Tyrell fan.
Right. So he has that opportunity at the very least to be a return guy, but I think watch out for on the receiver side as well. Zion Young, the lowest ranked recruit in Michigan State's class if you don't count kicker Jack Stone.
How about that?
158 snaps, I believe, last year.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, just what a find there. Don't even need to say much more than that. He's going to be a fixture in the defensive line for a long time to come. I'm sure I've missed some guys. I was just going off the top of my head, but also one thing to keep in mind is right around this time when kids have been on campus for 12 months, people that are close to the program, they start to hear things like, oh, player X, Y, and Z, sure, they're still here a year from now. They're kind of disengaged. They're not exactly developing. Don't expect them to be here for their whole career. Not hearing any of that right now with any of the guys that still remain here from that class.
Solid.
So everyone from this class is progressing in a great way. There's guys like Alex Van Sumeren, who you simply haven't needed, but he's on track and growing as well. You just have a lot of great upperclassmen there, so you haven't seen them. And same with Quavian Carter almost to an extent as well. So it's just very hard to not be optimistic on where these guys are trending. Obviously, they have to play to get some of the credit of being a hit. But I'm ready to put pretty much most of the remaining group of this class, which I think is 19 of the 23 kids, in at least the non-bust category right now after just not even 12 months of some of them being here, Matt.
That's not too shabby. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting position battles going on, too. Like the Jack Nickel situation, or not just the Jack Nickel situation, but the tight end, too, because they brought in, 18 tight ends in the offseason, it seemed like. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how everything stacks up there. And, of course, a pass-catching tight end is a far cry than a run-blocking tight end. So there's playing time to be had all over for these guys. But you think Jack Nickel creeps his way up there this season, or any of the other, transfer portal guys?
That's a good question. Yeah. So I think Malik Carr will probably be wide receiver 1.
For sure.
Athletic and toolsy. He needs to get more consistent in the blocking side of things still, but I think it's just hard to keep him off because of the mismatch. After that, really, it's anyone's game. I think Tyneil Hopper is probably the best blocker out of those 2 guys, out of Malik and Tyneil himself. But he's not the most consistent. He's the more skilled blocker, but he's not the most consistent. So that kind of leaves an opportunity for someone like Jack to – I think a lot of the guys they brought in, a lot of those guys are just depth and special teams and there to have some depth behind them. But they're not exactly looking to have some of those guys come in and start right away. Sure. So the opportunity there for Jack is start in that tight end 3 spot, get consistent, do well in your run-heavy sets, maybe move up to tight end 2 before the season ends. That's kind of where I see him fitting in right now.
And one more thing I want to pick and prod you over, some inside information here is I want to go back to those offensive linemen. Braden Miller, Ashton Lepo, Chris Phillips. Obviously, Gavin Brocious with his leg injury. Get well soon. I know he never misses an episode.
Yeah.
Between the 3, though, Braden Miller, Ashton Lepo, and Chris Phillips, are you hearing that maybe we should expect one of those guys to get some more serious reps than the other so far in this
That's
offseason?
A good question as well.
Thank you. I tried.
Braden Miller and Ashton Lepo, obviously the 2 tackles. Those guys, I would say, would not be the answer to the question purely because of who else Michigan State has in the starting spots there. So, Keyshawn Blackstock, JUCO commit, who came to Michigan State for his first season right now. He and Spencer Brown and Brandon Baldwin are the 3 guys vying for the 2 offensive tackle spots. I would guess that Keyshawn gets one of them, and then the best out of Brandon Baldwin and Spencer Brown gets the other one.
Yep.
So in that result, I think you have your tackle situation shored up for one more year, and then next year is when those guys can kind of step up into that hole. However, Chris Phillips could be the starting right guard depending on who wins between him and Gino.
Okay.
I think it is easier for Chris to beat out Gino than it would be for Braden and Ashton to beat out those offensive tackles.
Right on.
So I would definitely say he is kind of your answer there. And great size, obviously. Came in at 6'6", 320, I believe. And skill refinement and technique refinement has been the story with him so far. So opportunity is there.
And we're going to hit on this a lot more next week. But just, this is like a dress rehearsal to this question.
Yeah.
But number one thing you're looking for at the spring game as we go in there. Okay, I'll answer this for you. To see if it's a game, first and foremost.
Or if it's called the spring kickoff, Matt.
The spring kickoff Bonanza Palooza 2023. That's right. But let's say it is a game. Like, what is the one thing that you're going to be looking for in this one?
Honestly, I'm going to be looking at the offensive line because of the fact that last year there was not an offensive line to look at the spring game.
Small problem. Yeah. Kind of the reason there wasn't a spring game last year.
I believe it was like 4 scholarship guys and 2 walk-ons that were healthy for that game, and that's not an exaggeration, I believe.
Sadly, no. No. 2 walk-on defensive linemen playing offensive line in spring practice because, well, we need bodies.
Yeah. So with the offensive line, Coach Cap had a quote recently. He said the newcomers in this current class that just came in, Stanton Ramel, Cole Dellinger, Keyshawn Blackstock, he said they are more ahead of any of the newcomers he's had before. So I want to see those 3, how they look compared to the rest of the offensive line and just how the offensive line looks as a whole. So that is what I'm going to be looking for in Spartan Stadium in 10 days, 9 days. You get the idea.
Anywhere between 7 and 17 days.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sounds about right.
I'm smiling about football again, though.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. That was a nice little piece there. Great insight, nice breakdown. And you know what other sport we're also smiling about? Women's basketball. That's right. After an insane rise in popularity and headlines over the last month, just women's basketball as a whole, Michigan State getting in on the action, hiring Bowling Green's head coach Robin Freilich. Coming home in a way from Okemos, of course, and is she her? Because I'm all in on this hire. I'm not going to claim to say, oh, I had a bunch of names written down on my list. Like, no, I had an idea of like who we wanted to hire. Someone that is going to stay here for a little while. Someone young with energy. And when I say that, I mean young because they could stay here for a while. Like what Susie Merchant had was a 16-year tenure here. Okay, that is fantastic. And you have someone here that is coming in here with energy and also from Okemos. That can't hurt, too, to keep her here when things start going well in East Lansing. So that was check number 1. Number 2, okay, it would be nice to have – get ready for this one. You sitting down? I actually called Alan Haller and told him this. Let's get a winner, okay? Someone that knows how to win here. And not just a winner, but like someone that knows how to do it quick. Bowling Green – not necessarily in great shape when she took over. 2 years before she took over, I think they had 8 wins. The year before, I think just 11 wins. And then by her 3rd year, like 14-4 in the MAC. They won more than 30 games last year. Before she even got to Bowling Green, 3 years at Ashland University, 104 wins and 3 losses. Like, how's that? You could play NBA 2K on rookie mode for 107 games. I don't know if you'd have a 104-3 record. Like, that is insane to do. And then third of all, the third thing that I just wanted on my little wish list for women's basketball coach was someone that is kind of with the times. And by that, I mean the transfer portal. Okay, Bowling Green last year, 2 of their top 4 most productive players, graduate transfers. Like Robert Freilich, no stranger to the transfer portal. We just saw what LSU could do in the transfer portal. They had to replace 80% of their offensive efficiency from the season prior. And, well, just like they said, they got the ring, baby. So that seems to work out. And it is a very exciting time to be a fan of women's basketball. And I love that MSU is bringing energy with Robin Freilich into the fold here because what's not to like about her? I mean, she seems all about the business. And, I'm thrilled. I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
Not much to add for me there. Great assessment by you. Very thorough.
Fired up.
Like you said, coming home from the area.
Yep.
Basically grew up in the backyard of Michigan State, she said.
You know what?
You have someone that is the very opposite of a retread. You have a rising star in the industry.
Totally. Yep.
You have, like you said, a winner, but not just winning at a level where talent was just abound, right?
Right.
You have a place where you have to grind out the talent. You have to really watch tape and find guys, in this case girls, and you had to make sure that you are able to not just find them, but then land them. And that's not easy at a place like Bowling Green. I'd imagine it's probably not easy at Ashland, even though that is probably one of the better jobs in D2. But if you can go ahead and win at Ashland and you can win at Bowling Green, you're not going to need anything handed to you, and you're not going to be just winning off of program prestige.
Yep.
You're going to be earning all of your evaluation, fines, and lands in that role. And like you said, Midwest roots, coming home, it's just the perfect blend.
It's fantastic. So, yeah, formally introduced today, I believe, in the press conference at Breslin Center. So, yeah, it's awesome, man. God, it's just women's basketball is so exciting, man.
Yeah.
That tournament was
tournament.
Electric.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. From the very end, I mean, I could do without all the controversy. Not that I didn't like what happened on the court. I just hate everyone's opinion on it. But you know what? Who watches talking head sports shows anyway? That's right. But, yeah, just like in the first weekend, okay, you got a one-seed Stanford losing almost immediately. You got Indiana losing almost immediately. Like, this isn't the times of 4 one-seeds in the Final Four and then, UConn won the title game by 25 points. Like, no, there is actual parity now, and it's very exciting. So
parity, star power, that's really all you can ask for in sports.
Caitlin Clark was the most electric player of both the men's and the women's tournament in March, and that's not even a hot take. Like, that's just patent fact.
That's fact, yeah. So there's no question about that.
Yeah. So let's just go find another Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
How hard can that be? So
yeah.
Speaking of hard things, 2 our facts, 1 is whack. I don't know. Sorry.
2 and 7. Let's see if I can make it 3 and 7.
Contractually obligated to get to this segment, I'm sorry to say. But hey, we had Jon Borovich on earlier. He is the director of recruiting at basketball. So let's keep the theme with basketball recruiting here. Also with the Kurtang commitment, of course, and I'm still fired up at the 2023 class like the rest of you are. So got a little bit of all of that.
Okay.
Are you ready to play 2 are facts, 1 is whack? Okay, 3 statements. 1 of them is not true. 2 are. Statement number 1. Right now, MSU is one of 3 Big Ten teams with a top 50 commit per the 24/7 Sport Composite for the 2024 class.
You said 1 of 3?
1 of 3 Big Ten programs.
In the 2024 class.
In the 2024 class.
Okay.
Basketball. Statement number 2. Okay. MSU right now, in the 23 class and the 24 class, have 4 combined commits that rank in the top 60. I'm going to give that one to you. That is just a patent fact to set this up. That is the only time since 2015 MSU has stacked back-to-back classes with at least 4 combined top 60 recruits.
Second time since when?
2015.
Okay.
2015. That's right. Statement number 3. In the top 20 list of highest recruits MSU has ever gotten since 2000, 3 of them are in the next 2 classes, 2023 and 2024. That data also was compiled by 24/7 Sports, which I hear you do some work for them.
Yes, shout out to them.
Yeah,
you said 3 of the top 20?
3 of MSU's top 20 rated commits since 2000.
So Xavier Booker and Jeremy Fears are definitely there. Cohen Carr, he is in the low 30s.
This guy knows recruiting.
I would say that counts. Now the question is Kurtang there? Is it 4? That's the question. Kurtang is in that same range. So if I'm saying that Cohen Carr in those 30s, low 30s is in there, then I've got to say Kurtang is also in there. Or neither of them are in there, and the answer is still that it's not 3. It's either they got 2 or they got 4. That's kind of my thought process there.
In the top 20. That's right, since 2000.
Okay, so revisiting the middle one. So this was the second time, true or false, this is the second time Michigan State has stacked top 50 recruits in 2 classes in a row since 2016.
The first time. Yep.
Oh, this is the first time.
This is the first time.
Okay.
23-24. First time since 2015 they've stacked
Yeah.
back-to-back classes with at least 4.
And then the
top
first
60
question
kids.
was, there are 3 Big Ten teams that have a top
50
Top
commit.
50 commit. So Michigan State and Rutgers are definitely up there. Rutgers has a 5-star top 10 player from the state of New Jersey. I believe New Jersey, but fact remains that they have a top 10 kid. Michigan State, obviously, with Kurtang. Now the question is if there's a third school or not.
Who's to say? I'm to say, actually. I got the answer in front of me. So.
All right, I can't take this long, but this is a good one. They all
Shot
seem
clock is
feasible.
ticking.
You know, with the argument that I laid out in the beginning, with how since Cohen and Kerr are both ranked in the same area of the composite, But I can't name the third school that has.
I got you at Alcatraz right now. This is great. I'm giving him the beats right now mentally. This is. We believe in you though.
Okay, so I think the middle one is true.
We might believe in you.
But every time I say, oh, that's the one that's true for sure, and I got to pick between the other two, that first one's always the one that ends up being the one. So I feel like I should just pick that one just because that premise never holds true for me. But I really believe that one is true.
So you're fading yourself. Okay, so
I'm about to flip a 3-sided coin.
Okay, this is going well. This is going great.
All right, I'm going to say that the one that is false is the third one.
The one that's false is the third one.
Yeah.
Shoot. Unfortunately, that one is true. The one that was whack was the statement, this is the first time since 2015. It was the middle one that was whack because this is actually the second time since 2015 MSU has stacked back-to-back classes with at least 4 top 60 kids. The 2016 class and 17 class had Miles Bridges, Cassius Winston, Langford, Ward, Jackson. All 5 of those guys were inside the top 60. Right now, it's Cohen Carr.
I don't know why I thought of it as 2017 because I thought since that class was how I was processing that question in my head. I'm like, all right, so they had the golden era. There were a lot of words in that question.
Yeah, there were a lot of words.
The wording was great. I just ignored the wording.
Sure, okay.
And for some reason, I was thinking, all right, so obviously you had the golden era of recruiting with Miles and Jaron and all that. And so he's asking about since then.
Yeah,
that was done by me.
And so the other true 2 statements. Right now, MSU is one of 3 Big Ten teams with a top 50 commit in the 2024 class. Arias Bailey, he's the number 5 rated kid going to Rutgers, and then Junie Mobley, 42 ranked commit going to Ohio State. I looked this up at about 3 p.m. today, so unless anyone committed in the last 6 hours, that still holds true. And then the other true statement, in the top 20 list of MSU highest recruits since 2000, 3 of them are in the next 2 classes. Xavier Booker is the number 3 rated recruit since 2000. Jeremy Fears is MSU's 11th best, also the best point guard that MSU has gotten since 2000. So that's, we've got some good point guards here. So he's the top one. And then Kurt Tang sneaking just inside the top 20. He is number 18 on the list.
So
Cohen Carr did look this up. He's 24. Cohen Carr's 24.
Interesting.
So right outside the cutoff line there. So recruiting is doing, I think, okay. Call me brash, call me arrogant, but I think it's just going a little fine. In East Lansing. So thanks for playing 2 are facts, 1 is whack. I hope you enjoyed your time. I don't think you did, but better luck next week. I cannot wait for next week. I'll do spring game as my theme, and I'll dig up stats from the 05 spring game that will be impossible to. It's gonna be great. It is going to be an electric factory.
Disappointing. 2 and 8, I believe, right? 2 and 8 is the record.
I don't want to say it out loud. Yeah.
Now, at this point, I'm just hoping that after the next 2, I go 3 and 9. What a shame.
Be like that sometimes.
Almost every week. Almost all of the times. Almost all of the times. Is that it, Matt?
I think that's all she wrote. Yeah.
I believe that is.
I can talk about Masters for 2 hours if you guys want to stick around.
Just tell me who I should bet on. One person. And we'll call it a day.
I like the value on Tony Finau. He's been playing really good the last year as well. If you want a long shot, though, Min Woo Lee is very exciting. 24-year-old kid from Australia.
24-year-old kid from Australia.
24-year-old from Australia. So he's just young enough to not be scared of what is at stake. He's young and dumb, and he's great at golf. So it's I don't even think the pressure will get to him.
Oh, that's a good theory.
It's insane analysis. But this kid, so good value on him. You can get him at 80 to 1 or sometimes 90 to 1, depending where you look. But yeah.
So if you don't show up next week, we know you've retired and moved to Boca.
I am on a yacht.
The next super booster of the FAU Owls.
Let's go, Owl up, baby. Let's go. No, I'll dump all my funds into the Spartan Dog for Life Fund. That's right. We're getting everyone here. Everyone. We're going to sign a 15-man basketball class for 2024. If I have anything to say about it, it's going to be sensational.
Never going to have a need for the portal debates again.
Oh, heavens no. Oh, you want to go to the portal? Fine. I got 3 more 5-stars on the depth chart behind you. Yeah, please. I'm actually begging you to go. So, that's how it's going to roll here once Min Woo Lee snatches that green jacket this weekend. I got so many bets out for this weekend, man. It's disgusting. I do the opposite of act like I've been there before. I just get way too overexcited for the Masters. By the time the first tee shot goes off tomorrow, I will have bets on 37 golfers, I think. And 5 pools. It's no one cares. I'll stop talking.
Yeah, that's me with the Super Bowl. It's like there's like 53 guys on the active rosters on each team, 106 guys. I'll have like 119 different guys to score a touchdown prop bet.
Yeah.
And then what I do is then I just retire from betting until football comes back around. Because I'm like and whatever on baseball.
Yep.
And NBA playoff betting.
Tell me about it.
So, college football futures. That's kind of where I start to. Oh, the NFL draft. Yes, I guess I don't really retire. But I reel it back when the Super Bowl ends.
There are 2 weeks in June where I take the load off. Yeah, God, we should have a gambling segment on here, and then like strongly urge everyone to cut against the grain of whatever we say, because what we are sharing is just horrible advice, terrible advice. Jason Day, I also like too, 25-1. So,
is there anyone left that you don't like?
Yeah, that's a good question. Who don't I like? For some reason, Jon Rahm doesn't fit the eye, which he will win by 7 strokes now.
Yeah, doesn't he have like the 4th best odds or something like that?
Yeah, 3rd or 4th. He keeps on flip-flopping between him and I think Justin Thomas. But, God, I'm just so excited. I can't wait to lose my entire 401k on Masters betting this weekend.
One thing is if you bet on every single person that's in the competition, you can't lose.
Can't lose. So I will bet on every single person but Jon Rahm. And then when he slips that green jacket on, I will be living in a halfway house with no regrets. So I can't wait.
And with that, I'm Justin Thind. That is the soon-to-be-broke Matt Sheehan. And
cheers, everyone.
We appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you next week.
I made a strong batch this time. It's just water with a lemon.